You get 500, you get 500, and you get 500, but you don't get 500. Nope. Why? You don't have housing. You're in subsidized housing. Okay, well then you don't get the full amount. Oh, you have to prove that your rent went up. That's what we're going to be talking about next on the show. Is when the 375 shelter allowance in British Columbia went up after it was frozen for decades. It seems like it went up from 375 to $500, but you had to prove that your rent went up to 500. But not everybody got that. Why? I'm going to talk about that next. Stay tuned, everyone. 500. Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host, and we're broadcasting from Victoria, British Columbia. Join with me today is Neil Matheson from Newton, Putin, Surrey.
Rootin' tootin' Newton.
Newton, Putin. Yeah.
You know what? To start off the show, we just clicked live right now, and wouldn't you know it, we have Peter Cunnington in chat, and he's like, "Hey," and he's like, $500. What a joke! That's
$500.
That's the first comment from live chat. So thank you, Peter, for that. That's a good comment to start off the show. $500. What a joke!
Yeah,
Couldn't agree more, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, it's like a slap in the face, really. And I'm going to dive into that on today's show and give our viewers and our listeners a breakdown of how we got to $500 for shelter maximum, shall I say? Shelter,
yeah, maximum.
British Columbia.
Yeah.
But first of all, today we have a heat warning in effect for much areas of the south coast of British Columbia and Vancouver Island. Even the capital region of Victoria, we're going to heat up pretty good today into the low 30s. And the humidex is going to feel a lot hotter. So anyone
yesterday was so hot in Surrey.
Today's going to be even hotter. But then after today, it's going to start kind of going down a little bit in the temperatures, and then later in the week could be back to more seasonal. So it's a little spike up. I spent a little bit of time yesterday at the mall just to kind of sit in the mall, and it was actually nice. And then kind of dreaded the idea of getting out of the mall. It's nice and hot. So
do they still have Jogenfruz, Brent? You know Jogenfruz?
Yeah.
that used to be the thing in the 80s, early 90s.
Yeah,
I used to love Jogenfruz. I don't know if it's still around or not.
I haven't seen.
But shout out to Jogenfruz if it's still around.
Yeah, I've heard that name in the past, I actually.
Good morning, Inga. Inga's in chat now too.
Yeah, I checked it out, and one of those the yogurt places too. Like they would make all these smoothies and stuff. It was pretty cool. And my favorite place was the Orange Julius. That was my favorite go-to place, especially when it was really hot.
I used to love Orange Julius too.
Yeah. Yeah, the cream supreme was my favorite. Yeah. But so anyway, getting to the BC maximum shelter allowance for persons with disabilities in the province of British Columbia. There's nothing to celebrate about at all. So a little bit of the history, like I mentioned, I'm going to go back to like 1992. So when the shelter rate in 1992 was $275 in 1992.
Yeah.
And then it went up to
we should give a little bit of the context here though, Brent, because I think you know more than me, but give people a rough ballpark of what the average rents were at that time, like for everybody. We're not just talking like what were the average rents for like people that were homeless, but what was kind of the going average rent at that time I think it's important to kind of put it in context, right?
hmm Yeah.
Um,
So in 1992, actually, I was going to recorrect myself. Is that the shelter rate went up to it was well, it went up to 325. Like it was at 275. It went up to 325. Yeah.
right. Okay. So
I apologize.
that's when it changed from
Yeah.
at 1992 it went to
Yeah, they went to
325.
325.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to clarify, because I was just like, oh, I think, oh, I just said
Yeah.
that. Yeah, so it went up to, yeah.
Yeah.
So wow, yes. So it actually was a lot lower.
Yeah.
It was in '89. That's as far as I can go back to find that information. So it went up to 325. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I've checked the charts too, and you're right. You
Yeah.
can't go back further than 89. It kind of
Yeah.
stops there. It's a
Yeah.
hard
It's like-
stop back to
Like the
89.
government
Yeah.
deliberately cut that information. I
Yeah.
have heard it actually. That gave me a lot more history of the reasons why.
Yeah.
Government pulled that information.
Yeah.
A company, it was from Main Street Research for that actually had that information out. And
Government's very good at hiding information, aren't they?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
mysteriously went, and I thought, wow, and they gave me the whole breakdown of all the provinces in Canada and the territories of what the rates were.
You know what it is, Brent? Turn your head and acknowledge the pink unicorn.
The one that's right behind me. Oh, that's why. Yeah,
That's why,
they're
Brent.
they're living well. They're living well. Yeah, definitely.
It's the pink unicorn that's destroying all the historical data.
Yes, yes, it's all the pink unicorn's fault. So with a little bit of the history of what the rents were like back in 1992. Now I was living with my mom as a single mother, bringing up to two young adults at the time. Fortunately, I was still living with my mom, and my brother was kind of coming and going. He would be there, and then he'd kind of move out and then move back home again. Of course, I went through that little trend myself because where I was working, I was more situated for where I needed to be, but it didn't work out, so I ended up moving back, and then I moved out again, moved back. My mom got so mad with me and said, "Well, if you were renting in market housing, you wouldn't be able to do that. Like, you're lucky that you got a roof over your head right now." And I said, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, the government will make sure that those shelter rates are increased over time, and that not to worry." Well, I mean, God rest your soul, Mom, but unfortunately, I mean, you and I had that discussion way back when, and going fast forward, the government doesn't take care of their residents that are disabled, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to pile into the average rent of back in 1992.
I've got my own figures, but I just wanted to wanted to mesh, and I just wanted to see if our figures match.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my mom rented a whole house. Okay. I'll put this into perspective. My mom, she wasn't a person with disabilities. She had undiagnosed disabilities, but they weren't medically assessed and designated as a person with disabilities. Because, I mean, as her and I had talked about, as we get older, you're going to get disabilities. They're going to be hidden. They're going to be invisible disabilities. They're still going to be prevalent. Oh, for sure. Because she developed a lot of different ailments as she got older. But anyway, where we rented was my mom paid $475 for a whole house.
Yeah.
Now, I was doing a paper route at the time, and I would be looking through classified ads for bike parts, bike shops.
And again, so where was that house located, Brent?
My mom actually lived between downtown Langley and Aldergrove.
Okay.
So we lived in the rural area. And so anytime I needed to go downtown, I either had to take a chartered bus, a bus line, like a Greyhound or a Pacific Coach line, so they called it way back when, or I would actually have to walk or ride my bike downtown Langley, because there was no BC Transit at the time in my area servicing my area way back when.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, they launched BC Transit in my area, and I was like, yay!
Yeah.
I can actually have a little bit more freedom because I didn't have to wait for the school bus to take me to school back and forth. So I had a little bit more freedom there. But I would be looking at classified ads, and my mom was actually doing some grocery shopping, and she passed by me on my paper route. And my mom, she didn't drive, so she rode her bike, or she got a ride from her neighbors to go shopping, and it was awesome. So she stopped me one day, and she goes, "You're supposed to be doing your paper route." I am. I'm just stopping for a moment because I was looking at bike parts So I needed to get my bike serviced. And I flipped through and I saw real estate and apartments, and I was interested in looking at curious what apartments were going for. She says, well, you're not renting an apartment, so you're wasting your time. I said, but eventually I will be, eventually in the future. And I was looking at some of these prices, $435 for a 1 bedroom. It ranges $465, $495, more than $500, no more than $500, folks, for 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
Downtown Langley. And I'm not joking. And I saw these prices. And then deja vu, I would ride my bike by a place that I didn't know in the future that I'd be renting from. And I would ride my bike literally right by the same building. And I was like, oh. And fast forward through time, I ended up renting at that place. Now, I looked back at the rent prices and I thought in my mind, oh my gosh, it was like $495. Well, the same place I rented from was $800 for a 2 bedroom.
Right.
$800 for a 2 bedroom. And do you want to know what the shelter rate was then? $375.
Yeah.
$375. So imagine my mom rented a whole house for $475.
Yeah.
The shelter rate finally went up to, well, it wasn't at $375 when she passed away. It was actually at $325. So anyway, just to keep the timeline going so that people are not losing track of what I'm saying. Okay, so that shelter rate in 1992 was $325. In 2007, it finally went up to $375. $375 maximum shelter allowance in BC for PWD.
Okay, can I just stop you there? I'll just stop you there because I told you I was going to compare.
Yeah.
I was going to compare with what I thought, because actually I have to admit, like, I've never actually been a renter other than to my own parents. You know, like I paid rent to my parents. You know, before I moved here. You know, and I've been here for 20 years.
Yeah.
But prior to that, like I was paying rent to my own parents. I don't have experience dealing with a bad landlord or anything, because I'm not gonna say that my parents are bad landlords, of course.
Yeah.
So
before I go down to PWD, when I was working full time, and I was doing a paper route, and I had another job. I actually had 2 other jobs. So I had like a full-time job, 2 part-time jobs, plus a paper route. I was just running myself ragged.
Yeah.
Just to help my mom to keep things going, because she had a little hobby farm, right? So I mean, as we all know, pets cost a lot of money, and that was her family. And you know, so I had to pay rent, and I paid my food, helped out with utilities, and my mom said 30% of my income had to go to the rent. So out of my money that I would make, I had to pay 30%. I wanted to give her 50%. She said, no, 30%. Don't pay me more. Just pay me 30%. So that's how that worked back then.
Yeah, and so you mentioned 1992, and so I'm gonna go all the way back to then too, because
we're gonna go way back in the time machine,
because I remember, like, I started going to college. It would have been 1988. I went to Langara College for a couple of years, and then I transferred out, and I went to UBC, and I went to UBC all the way till May of 1994. That's when I graduated UBC. So, you know, right around like 92, 93, 94, you know, towards the tail end of my before I graduated university, of course I had a lot of friends that lived down there, because they wanted to live. Either they had student housing. I mean, but student housing actually was quite expensive even then. Like student housing was stupid. Like, it was really expensive. But there was still like a lot of like privately owned places where a lot of my friends were scooped up rents for, that were right down by the campus, and that's like that's like prime real estate down there.
Yeah.
You're talking like, you know, big coin now, right? Well, I mean, I had lots of friends that they were paying like it was around like maybe 400 to 450 for a one bedroom right down by the campus.
Wow.
So you're
That's
talking
perfect.
like right basically the heart of Vancouver. And then if it was a two bedroom, it might have been like around like maybe $600 or something, you know. So and I appreciate that we're going back a ways, right? We're going back a ways, but
it really shows you
it
how
really shows you how much the rents and inflation has just gotten so ridiculous.
and and PWD income hasn't even kept up. Right now, the buying power. When I did some calculations, I had an old friend of mine who he was just brilliant when it came to all these calculations. And he'd say how much it is basically for a whole PWD check on what it is an hourly wage, an hourly income, and that was, and then he calculated based on inflation and the buying power. And wow, like it was just incredible. God rest his soul, but now. Because he would actually look back and he'd say, "Oh, this income now, like for the amount of value that you can get for your dollar, you're looking at probably about 1977, folks. 1977. The amount of how inflation has gone up with rents going up. But his calculations, he did two comparisons for me way back when. But he did one with what the rent was then, and the rents were obviously, as we're talking now, were a lot cheaper. And the amount what you could get for your dollar. You could get a lot more in the 1990s. I mean, big time.
Let's do some very simple, like Captain Obvious math here, Brent. Like, so again, you said that back in 1992, the rent, the assigned rent for the shelter portion for BC shelter portion was $325, right? $325. So, and I already said that. A lot of my friends were able to get one bedrooms right downtown, like prime real estate right downtown for $400. That means you were only $75 away. $75 away from being able to hit that amount. Well,
that came out of their support portion.
Yeah, that would just $75 out of the support portion. You think, well, that was a big, that's a hit, but it's not huge. You can make that up, right? Whereas now, you've got your rent portion is stuck at $500. The average rent, like if we're being kind, like it's hard to come up with an average rent, right? But let's say, just say average rents here in Surrey are, ballpark is around, and this is being kind, we'll say around $2,000 a month, right? So at $500, if you get $500 for shelter, that means that you're still $1,500 short per month.
Yeah,
you're still $1,500 short per month from being able to just only get to your rent.
Yeah, you couldn't even rent there because your whole check is $1,483.50. So. And if the one bedroom apartment, say, is $2,000, you couldn't even, the whole check wouldn't even pay for that. That's not even including.
And we should say too. I mean, we're talking about Surrey, which is a lot cheaper than Vancouver. I mean, if we took the same place in Surrey and put it into Vancouver. All of a sudden, that place is now $3,500 a month.
Or the capital area of BC, Victoria, and Nanaimo.
Yeah.
Now,
did you want me to bring up the screen share? Let's bring up the screen share here, Brent. We have an article. It brings up. It's from the Czech News, and they did an article. It's from Adam Chan. We'll do a shout out to Czech News and Adam Chan. And the title for the article is Victoria sees fifth highest rent prices in Canada as averages drop slightly nationwide. So I'm just gonna bear with me here. I'll scroll down because it's got some interesting. And they've pulled their data from a website called rentals.ca. So I'm just going to just give the highlights basically of the article at the top here. It says the national average rental price is around $2,100, and again, it's hard to just give an average for everything, right? But because I mean, depending on where you are, it's obviously going to be different. Like we just said, like Surrey is quite a bit less than, say, like downtown Vancouver, right?
And yeah, for our listeners and viewers, like Surrey is part of the Metro Vancouver on the mainland,
right?
And basically Vancouver Island is the more western part of Metro Vancouver, and then we got the southern Okanagan. You got Peace River region, West Kootenays. I mean, BC's spread out in a lot of different areas. So like we're talking on the south coast of British Columbia, where rent prices are an average. They're averaged out. It's like I'll put it into context as Neil is pulling up this information for you. It's like Stats Canada comes out with an average rent price, right? Mm-hmm. People go, "Whoa, that's Stats Canada. Those numbers are misconstrued," but they average it out. It doesn't mean what reality is. What you're actually paying, because I mean, I can tell you, if I went around my community and asked 100 different apartments and said, "Well, what is your rent?" $2,800 for one bedroom. What's your rent? $26.50. Yours? $23.75. Yours? We got a special. We haven't been able to rent it out, but it's $1,900. Oh, what's wrong with it? You know, if the rent starts coming down,
somebody died. Somebody died in it last month.
But don't worry, we just got
aired it out for you.
Spray and sprayed it out, and there you go. Hey, we'll give you 1 month free rent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then you average it out and say, well, what is the average rent? It's $2,400 or something like that.
Yeah, right? and we did talk before the show, and we've talked on other podcasts too about the different stats or different calculations you can do. There's something, of course, everybody knows what the average is, right? You take a cluster of numbers and divide it by divide it by your sample, mm-hmm. and you come up with an average. Whereas there's something called a median, not medium, but median. A median number is it's good to identify kind of where the main cluster of where the majority price is. Mm-hmm. Like, so it basically gets rid of the low. It gets rid of the low bar number, and it gets rid of the high bar number. And mm-hmm. it's not necessarily an average but it basically says where is the concentration of the most numbers. Mm-hmm. That's basically what the median is. So you usually find that the median tends to pull down a little bit lower or higher than the average, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah, especially when like there's places that for rent, they're going to go with, some of them go with a median. They'll say your income has to be at a median income earner. Mm-hmm. So like I stumbled across this scenario many times. We talked about this on a podcast, a good while ago. And I'll probably dive into another podcast, and we'll dive more into that about median rents on an average, just for our listeners and viewers to tune in and watch that. We'll talk more on that one. We'll get some more data for you on that. But just to kind of quickly cover that little sneak peek on it, I mean, as a person with disabilities, discriminatory, income, because some corporate landlords were saying, well, you have to be making $80,000 in order for us to rent here. Well, mm-hmm. We were renting somewhere else, no problem. If that's what your income is. They required a minimum of $80,000. PWD in comparison,
which means that if four people with PWD got together, that still wouldn't be enough to qualify.
Still wouldn't be enough. No,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that just kind of throws that into comparison.
I just wanted to. I've got the chart here, Brent, and I just wanted to quickly go through the numbers on the chart. So again, you can see it's got a dotted line or it's showing the average across Canada is about 2,100. But you can see that BC is all the way up to 2,400. It's 2,457. So over $2,400. Alberta is on the lower side. It's only $1,700. And then you have Saskatchewan that's lower again. It's around a little bit under $1,400. You have Manitoba that's sitting right around $1,600 a month. Ontario is high again, but actually Ontario is lower than BC. BC is the highest province on here, the highest rent prices.
Wow.
Ontario is $2,325, so $2,300, a little over $2,300, and as we said, BC is $2,457.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing to celebrate. That's for sure.
So it's a full $150 more expensive on average in BC versus Ontario.
And remember, those numbers on average, those numbers could actually be a lot higher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
And the last two numbers here is interesting. Quebec is just a shade under $2,000 at $1,952 per month. And the one that really surprised me a lot was Nova Scotia. For some reason, I was thinking Nova Scotia rents would be, quite a bit lower because, I don't know, you just figure there's not going to be the same, I don't know, demand for housing there. But the average rents there is $2,275. So just under $2,300 there. So almost approaching Ontario levels there. I mean,
yeah,
it's really close to Ontario level rents, which is really surprising. And really in comparison, again, not too like a stone's throw away from even BC rents.
Yeah, it's catching up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because the maritime provinces, I mean, in traditional the rents have always been a lot lower. How times have changed, and there's no accountability to corporate landlords. Governments refuse to basically deal with this effectively. I mean, corporate landlords need to be paying their proper taxes in Canada, right? The way I look at it is, if you want to do business in the province or territory, you got to pay your tax, right? Yeah. If you don't pay your tax, then you need to have your business license pulled. Simple as that.
There's another chart here, Brent. I can just quickly go through again. It's got breaks it down into the ranks by city, and again, Vancouver ranks number one as the most expensive city in all of Canada, which is not surprising at all. Wow. No. Vancouver, we're number one as the most expensive place. Yay!
Yay.
And behind Vancouver, again, no surprise, it's Toronto. So again, on this chart, it's got showing 1-bedroom versus 2-bedroom rates. It's got it's showing that a 1-bedroom in Vancouver is $2,500 versus the 2-bedroom. You're going all the way up to almost $3,500, which we've said, like I just said a moment ago, $3,500, right, for rent downtown. So that year over year, it's a 10% increase over last year. It's a 10% increase in the cost. Toronto, you've got it lists at $2,300 for a 1-bedroom. 2-bedroom is almost $3,000, and that's a year-over-year increase of 5%. The number 3 spot is Mississauga, and again we're talking $2,100 or $2,200 for 1-bedroom and $2,600 for 2-bedroom. Then you got Burlington, We've got Victoria listed as at the number 5 spot. So again, you've got, it says one bedroom is $2,000, a little over $2,000 in Victoria. 2 bedroom is almost $2,700.
Yeah, remember these are average prices.
Yeah, and anyway, there, okay, I can go down the whole list, but
Yeah.
if you look at the list, you can see all of the numbers. They all come from either Vancouver, like the Greater Vancouver area, or I mean, including Victoria,
Yeah.
or Ontario, and then the one outlier is on the list is Halifax. It shows Halifax in the 7th spot.
Oh,
But all the other numbers, all the other high rent numbers are coming from, like I said, Vancouver's number 1. You have Victoria number 5, and all the other spots are filled out with from like Ottawa or Toronto, like Ontario, in there.
yeah. Because I know just recently on a newscast, I believe it was on Global News in British Columbia. I can't find the article on it currently, but Nanaimo, British Columbia was noted way up there in the rent prices too. And then they said there was nothing to be happy or to celebrate about because the rent prices have really surged, the amount of population there. And I can vouch for the amount of population there now because Sonia and myself were recently out there to go and see her grandma just recently last month. And wow, the amount of volume out there from last time that we had gone out has really surged. I mean, rush hour in the middle when it's not even supposed to be rush hour, the amount of volume of traffic and the growth of housing that's been built is ballooned up there. I mean, just incredible amount of population. So of course, like the surge of population is supply upon demand. So now, if you're going to get all the supply in, but the demand is growing, well, there's going to be a problem here. Like, so I mean, the surge of population coming in, it's going to balloon these prices up and up. So people are willing or able to rent. The corporate landlords are going to love it, right? Because I mean, who doesn't need housing, right? But it comes to a point where people's incomes aren't going up enough. They're not keeping up with the demand. And so that's why there's more and more people.
There was an article. There's been a huge exodus of people leaving BC.
Huge numbers.
What was the number? It was a stupid number, right? Like I forget, like something like 40,000 people. I have to look that up. I think it was 40,000 people have left BC.
Yeah, one of my neighbors in my building, Neil, just moved to Ontario.
Yeah.
They moved to Mississauga, and they found a really good deal. I don't know too much about different areas around Ontario. So, I mean, people who live in Ontario, in the province of Ontario, would know way better than I do. It's like vice versa, of which geographical area is cheaper. But they found a nice, decent place there. They were done with BC. They were really nice neighbors. I'm going to miss them a lot because they were like so cool to talk to. But they said they can't afford to live in BC. They said thanks to they said BC government, because they've increased all the taxes, so much tax. And also, I must say this because we're talking today's show about PWD maximum shelter allowance. One of the things that came up why they also moved was they were disgusted with all the BC governments that have been in power that have always had excuses of not raising the disability shelter allowance. Now, that wasn't the reason why they moved. They said that their daughter feels like that she was being punished for being disabled.
Yeah.
And they said that they can't bring their daughter up being around a province that is ableist. That's what they said. A province that's been ableist against their residents. So government, what are you going to do about fixing the actual rates immediately?
Well, it's been
how about tax the multi-billionaires?
Yeah.
People pay their fair share. Put the money back.
And honestly, but Brent, it's been 30 years of this, though,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean, it's not just been a couple of years.
Exactly.
It's been like 30 years of this, right?
It
Where they
has.
just keep kind of punting the ball on bad policy, and it's like, well, we know this is a bad policy, but we'll just punt the ball again, and maybe we'll fix it next year. But they keep punting the ball,
Exactly,
keep punting
because
the ball.
because
Yeah.
I remember sitting at the kitchen table, talking with my mom, many discussions. Like we would talk about economics, we would talk about why do certain things happen. My mom lived through the Great Depression, everyone, and so she taught me a lot. And I miss those discussions. Sometimes I feel lost of going, well, what do I do now? What do I do now? Like, and like we ration food, like ration or different things that we have, because we get like 5 week months now. Like this year has been brutal, because like we had 2 months in a row where it was 5 week months. Then we clicked into a 4 week month. It was like, yay, oh, 4 week month. But then you're still catching up from those other 2 months that were 5 week months, and then you click over to a 5 week month again. But here's the kicker: the rates haven't not been kept up with the cost of living. They're not even tied to inflation in British Columbia.
Yeah.
The shelter rates are a joke. You can't rent anywhere in North America, let alone in British Columbia. I mean, nowhere in North America can you rent for $500.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was going to get to my comment before we launch the show, and
Yeah.
people are going to probably throw knives at me and stone me, but I'll get to that. I'll get to that comment in a second. But I wanted to at first acknowledge Inga and Chad again. She made a couple of good comments. She said in the 1990s, I rented a four bedroom, 425 acre farm for 425 acres. That's a lot of acreage.
Oh, that's
Excuse
a
me.
lot. Yeah.
For $500 a month, now I pay $1,000 for 500 square feet cabin, and it's very rural. And I mean, actually, that's a screaming deal, which is
Yeah.
it's hard to say that, but it is. But then she follows it up and says, I will be living in my car by Christmas, and I hope that's not true, Inga.
Yeah.
I hope
not.
we can all experience a bit of a Christmas miracle, you included, because I hope that is not the case.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's two comments from Inga. And again, just before we launched the show, I was saying, we know that the current shelter rate maximum, we always have to throw out the word maximum, because not everybody qualifies for the maximum, right, Brent?
That's right.
Not everybody qualifies for the $500.
Yeah, because like the rates went up to $375 in 2007, and the then premier at the time in British Columbia, it was under a BC Liberal government at the time, and of course I was told, hey, you got to mention this on the podcast. So Sonia, I'm mentioning it on the podcast. Me and Neil are talking about it right now. The then Premier Gordon Campbell raised the actual shelter rates, and I must say, he raised the support portion.
He was being proactive, right? He was being proactive.
Yes, he was being proactive. He raised the shelter rate up to $375 from the $325 that was left there from 1992. So I must say, 1992 again, all the way till 2007. That's a lot of years, right?
Well,
so
let's count, Brent. That's 15 years,
15
right?
years.
That's
So
like
15
rough.
years.
I just did that rough math in my head, Brent.
15 years.
Are you impressed that I did that rough math in my head?
Oh yeah, and so so the people go, wow, I got a rate increase after 15 years. And
$50.
so
$50 bucks.
$50
So
bucks.
so let's do the math again. What is that dollar cost per year? How does that work out to roughly?
Well,
I think it's $3.25 per year increase.
Yeah. So when they
$3.25 per year increase.
So when they raised the shelter rate up to $375, they actually then increased the support. So in total, the whole total between support and shelter went up by $135 on these total check. So your support went up and the shelter went up. And the reason why was in 2007, of course, as we all know, in 2008 was the economic crisis, right? Now, Canada got buffered. They weathered it pretty good, I must say, because of how they handled the real estate and the banking sectors. In the United States, I'd love to have somebody come on to our podcast. So this is an invitation for anyone in the United States of America to come on to our PWD Allies podcast and talk about the 2008 Great Recession that you had in basically in perspective of how did it affect PWD lives there. Because I'm really curious on how did persons with disabilities in the United States, how did they get through that crisis? Because I can tell you in BC and across Canada, like I can't speak for other disabled people across Canada, how you all weathered, the economic downturn. I know for myself, I was working at a company at the time, and my hours really drastically got cut back, and I needed that money to supplement my income, because I actually had to deal with more adaptive equipment that I needed to get at the time. And so I had structured and budgeted this money in accordingly, thinking, okay, I'm going to be getting this money so I can actually afford to go and buy certain things I needed. I needed a new bicycle at the time, because where I was living at the time was the transit wasn't the best, but it was doable. So I needed a bike to still get around. And yes, I because I'm still legally blind. I have my visual impairment. I can still ride a bike. I miss riding my bike because where I live now, I don't have a bike. I can't afford to buy a bicycle. I would love to have a bicycle. But don't worry, I won't fall off because I keep my balance. It's like driving a car, right? Once you drive in a car, you know how to drive it. Once you ride a bike, you know how to do it. It's like tying your shoelaces. Once you know how to tie your shoelaces, you know how to do it. But
when Jake was younger, he had a heck of a time learning how to do that. Like I kept teaching him and he was just, I don't know, he couldn't figure it. And then just one day he figured it out. But but I wanted to get back to I said I was going to I said I was going to get stoned by everybody on here but before we launched the show, I was saying, so we know what the current rent the shelter rate is now is $500. I was saying that I'm just going by provincial policy or provincial appetite or however you want to say it, based on provincial or political appetite, the rent or the shelter rate should be set at minimum. I'm talking a low bar. They should immediately put it to $800, and everybody's going to stone me now and saying, Neil, that's still way too low. And I acknowledge that it's true, but I'm just saying, like, if you try to even think like the government, like $800 now really should be like the lowest of the lowest of the lowest bar, right? And the way I kind of am spitballing, but the reason I kind of came up with that number is again, like you and I kind of both look at the trends of the rental prices and the lowest of the lowest of the lowest bar rental prices now, if you get a screaming good deal, is like $1,600 a month, right? Like that's kind of like the low of the low bar is $1,600 a month. So that's why I thought, if you had two people that were able to partner up, and take their if it was, say, hypothetically $800, they could partner up, and 800 plus 800 is the $1,600 could cover it with two people under one roof. So that's what I mean about being kind of that should be the new low bar of the low bar. And again, people can stone me, throw rocks at me or whatever, but I'm just saying, if you think like the government, that really should be their new low bar, is right at that, like, again, lowest of the low bar should be minimum increased to $800.
Yeah, the only like I understand, like, where you're coming with that, that amount. The only problem that I see with it is well, I mean
there's lots of problems with it.
Yeah, it's like when the interest rates get put on there per year, your annual rent increase notice. So the government magically comes out with these figures, like 1 year it's 3%, next year it's 3.5, or it could be 3.75. And now that gets added on top of that amount. So if your rent, say $1,600, if you could find anywhere for $1,600,
well, like I said, that's lowest of the low bar.
The lowest. Now it's going to keep compounding.
Yeah.
And so when I mentioned in the podcast earlier, like when the rent went up, like the shelter portion, of course, the cost of living hasn't tied to cost of the living adjustments. So there's a problem where, like in BC, where I'm going to mention about the shelter where we're at now, is in 2007 when we went to 375. I mean, kudos on the government for doing that, being proactive, because before the great recession that we had in 2008. However, in 2007, it stayed that way at 375 all the way till 2023, folks. 2023. So we went through the Gordon Campbell of the BC Liberal government, right? And then we went through then because Gordon Campbell actually stepped down in 2010. He was then replaced. So we had the Christy Clark Liberal government back in that time era, and then after that,
can you do your Christy Clark impression?
Yes. Folks, if the rent is just too high, you can move up north. You can move up north. We take better care of dogs and kennels than we do with people.
We got to look after our most vulnerable.
We have to look after our most vulnerable, and those are our family pets. Well, what about people with disabilities?
It's dogs. Dogs are the most vulnerable.
Move up north. Well, I don't have accessible transit. I don't have the medical care that I need. I don't have the grocery stores that I need to get to. Well, you have two feet. You've got a good pair of shoes. You can walk.
And then she'd say, well, I have my private jet, but that's only for me. That's only for me to fly around in. So sorry, you don't get the private jet, Brent, but that's only for me.
You have the shelter.
You made a good point earlier about that the other costs are going to go up when I mentioned the $800 times two if you have two people. But so what I was going to say in connection to that, and I didn't get a chance to yet, was it should be $800 again. That's like the lowest of the low bar, and indexed to inflation, and index to. I mean that would again. If you did those two things, we're talking the lowest of the lowest of the lowest bar, like we're talking the lowest bar for provincial government to jump over, and it's like this high.
Right.
If they could do that, that would be the barest of the barest of the barest minimum.
That would be the baby steps.
That would be the most baby step they could do. And I'm sure to them they go like $800. Are you crazy? Well, I'm not crazy. I'm basing it on, again, the lowest of the lowest bar rents that you see is $1,600 a month. So if you don't want to have 5 or 6 people sharing a 2-bedroom apartment, which you can't do. You can't do.
Legally, you're not.
Legally, you're only allowed to, have 2 people in a 2-bedroom apartment usually, right?
Yeah.
So in the most cases, you're only going to be able to share with one other person.
Yeah, unless there are many cases where apartment buildings are or any kind of accommodation, there managers are allowing it. Technically they're not supposed to, but it comes down to their discretion. And yeah, for another tenant to be there. Of course, then it gets tacky because now it's like if they're going to be residing there on a permanent basis, then they have to now get put onto the lease agreement, or they can stay with management's approval. However, in some cases where I know we've witnessed it at one place where we lived at, a building that we lived at, was the manager said, "Well, that'll be $200 more a month." At first, they wanted $400, and then she says, "I'll go down to $200 more a month." Well, let me come on, like, and I remember another tenant I didn't really get to know, but I overheard. We were walking down taking garbage out one day, and manager's arguing with the tenant and said, "For God's sake, can you like, I mean, can I just pay you $100 then, 200?" Or she goes, "What? So you want to see her homeless?" And that's my point, is that the person was a PWD.
Yeah.
She couldn't afford the market rent, but her friend said, "Can she stay here at least? Like, let her pay an extra $100. I mean, for her to be here." I mean, I'll even pay it for her to be here, because they said the government won't raise the disability and income assistance rates. And again, I mean, keeping people housed rather than unhoused. My motto is I like to see people housed. I mean, government, they make all these choices and basically excuses of reasons why not to raise the rates. I always say, so you raise the rates, it actually benefits the community, it benefits the person's well-being, it benefits their mental health, their physical health, it puts less strain on our healthcare system. It really benefits everybody, because economically and socially, it changes the person's whole well-being. They can make better decision making in their life. Like I can come with all the positive reasons why.
I think government just assumes that people with
they all live in
disabilities.
BC housing.
Well, either they all live in BC housing for
Or they live with their
I was going to say they live with their mom and dad, or they live with relatives or something, right?
Though FYI, government, my mom and dad, they're passed away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. A lot of people don't have family.
Yeah, and there's a long 20-year waiting list on BC housing.
Yeah.
So what could go wrong? But don't worry, we're building more housing. Well, here's the thing. What about let the PWD make that decision for themselves where they want to live?
I mean, actually, on Friday, I'm not going to go into it in detail because we're going to cover this on Friday's show a little bit. Remember David Eby's wonderful BC Builds plan, right? He says, remember the BC Builds thing? He says, I'm gonna build all this quote unquote affordable housing, Brent. Affordable housing. And what is the definition of affordable? Like what's kind of the legal definition of, we touched it on already. The legal definition of affordable housing is what?
Median.
Well, no, I was going to say the 30% rule, right? The 30%. 30%.
But it could also be based on like the median though, because it could be 30%. Sure. So your income now could be like, and this one corporate landlord explained to Sonia and myself. Okay, so Camille's kind of touching on this now.
Yeah.
Where I'll give you an example. So, without basically throwing the corporation under the bus, and that's not what I'm here to do, but I'm here to expose the problems that they're causing for people to not being able to rent and call a safe place they call home. We've run against this from 11 different corporate companies. Okay. Yeah. And the news media didn't even know anything about this. We ran against this from the first time when we moved to Nanaimo at the time. Sonia's mother was with us at the time, and it triggered up because she says, "Well, I'm just wondering if you renting?" "Oh yeah, we have a place to rent." "Okay, these two I need to offload these two. They need to now go and find a place to rent. So could you rent to them?" "Okay, so they have their income?" "Yeah, we had because it was a meeting when we showed up. This is our income." "What's this?" Like, and literally the manager said, "What's this?" "This is our income." Is that a joke?
Yeah.
No, yeah. Okay. So
am I being punked right now?
Yeah.
Am I being punked?
So the corporate manager said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't rent to you." "Why?" "Because your income, number one, your income's too low. Yeah. And we won't rent to people with disabilities if the income's that low." Yeah. So you know what her mother said? Her mother said, "Would you rent to me?" Now her mother, they own their own place. Okay, they own their own place, but the manager didn't know it. She goes, "Would you rent to me then? Because maybe you can rent to me, and then I could then basically just sign the lease, and then I could I could just give it to them." No, no, your income's too low. Your income is too low.
Yeah.
Imagine that, folks. So I had the media buzzing on this, and they said, "Whoa, that's not right. That's discriminatory." Really?
Yeah, and it is.
And we didn't realize at the time that it blossomed a lot further than that. We ran against a place in Langley, without, like I say again, without exposing the name of the corporation. One day I'll go down. We'll do a podcast on it. But like we ran against it, and they said, "Well, we'll go as low as $60,000."
Yeah.
What? Say what?
Isn't that crazy?
That's between the two of you. So we're willing to do that. So you just go and tell the provincial government to raise your rates up to X amount of dollars.
Yeah, tell them to give you $60,000, and then we'll.
Well, I'll talk to my head office. I'll see if they're willing to kind of go with that. I mean, we'll go as low as 50 if we have to, but I don't think they're going to do that. They would rather probably go with 60. They would like to have 70 or 80.
Yeah. Well, and again, let me take 30 seconds again to circle back to David Eby's the BC Build thing. So his thing is, he was saying, I'm going to build all this quote unquote affordable housing. So again, if you take the rent geared to income definition, the RGI definition of affordable housing, that's 30% of your income. So 30% of our income as PWD is $500.
Right.
Right. So when he said affordable housing, that should have meant $500 a month maximum rent. Affordable rent is $500 a month.
Yes.
And you know what his definition of affordable rents was?
Million?
Yeah. No, I'm being serious. Like,
I just had to
I know. But his definition of affordable rents, David Eby's definition of affordable rents suddenly wasn't $500 a month. It was between $3,500, $3,500 to $4,000 a month. Affordable rents. $3,500 to $4,000 a month is considered affordable rents in the mind of David Eby. That's affordable housing. Affordable housing, $4,000 a month.
Bubble world.
Can you imagine?
I think unicorns are they're just jumping up and down with joy.
Again, like it would take four people. Gosh. It would take 4 people on PWD, and you still couldn't cover the cost of that.
No, you'd have to be 8 of them.
You'd have to be 8 people in a 2 bedroom or 1 bedroom place.
And then basically you got tenant insurance. Now a lot of places are required to have tenant insurance, and if you don't pay it, you can't rent there. And I actually asked that, like when we moved into this building, I said to the manager, like we had the place within 15 minutes, like no joke, within 15 minutes. I had phoned up, and before we had moved to Victoria, I had phoned around and I said, like, I'm looking for rental. If you call me by the end of the month or beginning of the next month, I'll let you know if somebody had given their notice in. Well, if I call by the beginning of the next month, it's already too late. I have to give my notice in. Well, okay, well, people have to give their notice in. Well, okay, has anyone given their notice like a month and a half in advance or 2 months? Well, usually not. I mean, unless we have to do renovations, then we take a unit out of commission. Well, when do you need it by? Well, like a month and a half from now on. Okay, why don't you come and see me? Come and see me. So we came out, we looked at the unit. Yeah, I mean, it's a roof over our head. Okay, let's just put it that way. We had to get out of the situation where we were, I mean, out of a brand new building where we were living. Okay, I must say that, a brand new building, but the rents were way too high. We got pushed into a more expensive unit in our building due to the fact that, well, the manager cleared out 2 floors of the building. drug paraphernalia. I mean, who would have thought that your manager was actually doing drugs in the building and clear out 2 floors? But she was desperate to basically flip the units over in order to make the commission that she wanted. So we either had to put up with it, and we couldn't even open up our windows in a brand new place that was built. We saw it getting built. We thought, hey, we finally found another nice place, right? So the ministry, MSDPR, called up and said, well, just checking that, you do realize that your rent is a little bit elevated. And I said, yeah, but it's a brand new place. That's what you paid for. We can manage this because we had the COVID supplement at the time in BC. They had $300. And I thought, wow, we can make this work because we figured that the government's not going to take it away. And the reason why we knew the government wasn't at the time take it away, because the ministry's office told us this is the amount going forward. They're not going to claw that off. They're not going to take this away, Brent.
Surprise!
So they're not going to be mean-spirited. But they put that in. Yeah. And so we made that economic decision. Yeah. And I guess that's my point, is that we made decisions based on what the government had said. And so we said to the corporate manager, we can do it. And her boss...
The government lied to my face, and I believed them.
And her boss was right there, and he says, "Can I see the paperwork?" Okay, and your entitlement, and it said right on there, it says ongoing. It's not. It says indefinite. Indefinite. He says no problem, and so he and her went with it, and they said, "Well, yeah." So, long story short was we had a choice. She had to either move to another unit in the building or vacate. They were willing to void out our lease agreement if we had moved out to another unit in the building. If we didn't want to, we could leave the building, but we would have had to pay, they call it liquid damages clause, to void out our lease agreement. And in the middle of winter, we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And we, all of a sudden trying to find somewhere, we would have been homeless on the street. Imagine that, right? Well, we didn't, and we couldn't have that. I wouldn't put Sonia into that bad situation. So we had no choice but to take a more expensive unit. However, there was a clause put in place under the condition, because we didn't do the liquid damage clause by voiding our lease. We would do the unit more expensive, a lot more expensive, $1,775 for a 2-bedroom at the time. I mean, now you look back and say that's a killer deal, right? I mean, people say, "Oh my God, 2-bedroom." Yeah. Well, for us at the time, we didn't get a renting an increase in our shelter portion, right? But we had the COVID supplement. They took away. Then they decided to start taking that away, of $125 off that. So now we only have $175 to work with. Our rent's now elevated higher. Yeah. We then said, okay, what's going to happen? So part of the agreement was that when our lease was going to expire, we would have to then pay the higher rent. That was the agreement, because that unit was actually going for a lot higher, but they will give it to us for that price on a clause that our rent was actually going to be much higher. Yeah. And we can't do that. So they said, well, either take it or leave it. That was part of the agreement. And I looked into it, and legally, they weren't allowed to do that. But we were put into between a rock and a hard place, either do this or not. We said, okay, I guess we have to. Yeah. So, I mean, with God rest John Horgan's soul, he had forewarned us, be careful with corporate landlords, because some of them are shady, some of them are really good. Just be careful. I said, no, John, don't worry. Sonia said, there's a good management. It's good management. Okay, then you have nothing to worry about. I said, as long as I can keep the 300. Well, see, that's the thing, he said. It won't disappear. It'll go down by 125 off. I'm going to advocate and keep advocating for you guys and all the British Columbians with PWD to bring back the 300, he said. I'm the only person on the committee. I'm only one voice, he said. So they make decisions. We all vote on it. I'm like, okay, so they're basically weren't all in favor about keeping the 300. I go, John, the ministry's office told us that it's going to be there 100%. I see. And he looked at me, he goes, I see. Okay. Yeah.
So they lied to our face, John. They lied to our face.
Yeah, exactly. And so I guess the long story short on it, to summarize it, is I made a decision based on what the government told me. Right. And so it inspired us into a good decision-making situation where we thought brand new. We could have kept living at our previous residence, it wasn't exactly the best of the best. I mean, older building, but you know what? It was doable. The rent was still cheaper. We would have been there still, maybe in another unit in the building, because that's why we moved. But yeah, well, we definitely would have been in another unit in the building because it was a little bit cheaper at the time, 1 month free rent. So we could easily just moved over. So, you know, it's been a ripple effect, and because of the shelter rates, you know, and at that time, 2021 was last time the support rates were increased. And so that we had to look at it economically as well. We have no choice but to move. Nothing available in Nanaimo at the time. I mean, Sonia's parents are there. I mean, I've got relatives out there. And we thought, okay, well, we're still going to be in Victoria, probably closer to medical stuff that Sonia will need anyway. Yeah. And so we had to kind of look as geographically, where is it going to be better? We couldn't find anywhere that was available. So we thought, okay, she's going to get all our medical care in Victoria. The housing was cheaper. We had the place within 15 minutes after we saw it. We cased out the place a day before. We went around, looked around the neighborhood, made sure it was safe. The deer were here. First thing was, oh, hey, this is a selling point. We see deer. Yay. Okay, this could be good. Yeah. Not knowing that they live in our backyard. So that's even better. It's more of a bonus, right? Yeah, the gardeners just love the deer because they put new plants out and the deer come by and munch away. So they got the gardeners coming up, replanting everything. Yeah, so it's fun. It's funny, you know. But they're like family. They're like family. That's the only thing I would miss out of this area is the deer. Yeah. I mean, I like the management. They're really friendly. Do I like that how the rents keep going up? No. But it's a business. It's a transaction. It's from a personal point of view, even the management agrees with me that the government needs to do the right thing and not eventually. Okay, government, not eventually. This is coming from one of my managers. There's been several of them told me, you need to do the right thing and actually increase the rates to up there. As Jeff Leggett would say, no less than poverty level.
And again, people can stone me if they want, but I think $800 is a good starting point, like the bare minimum. Like I said, the bare minimum starting point.
But it has to be tied to inflation.
Tied to inflation. And both of those things. If they did both of those things, that would be like a bare minimum ask.
At least a starting point. Yeah. And the government's been told by other advocacy organizations, self-advocates, other advocacy organizations, business groups, business leaders. I mean, I could keep going on, but I won't on it. But the government has been told to tie it to inflation. And they say, yeah, we recognize that it needs to be done. It's, you know what, it's in the 2021 report. If people are curious, go back and look at BC poverty reduction. They have a report that came out in January 21st of 2021. It was a report that was actually sitting there, and the premier, again, not that I'm picking on John Horgan looking back, but he knew about that report. It was sitting actually on his minister's desk for housing at the time. It was sitting on there. And that report, every so often, I'll actually post it out on social.
And who was the Minister of Housing, Brent?
Take a guess.
I know. So I know what the punchline is. It was Mr. David Eby. Mr. David Eby was the Minister of Housing. Surprise. Yeah. Yeah,
he was the Minister of Housing back then. And the report was sitting on his desk. Yeah. Dust was getting on it, but they just...
And surprise, he did nothing.
And you know what? And from 2021 all the way to now, guess what? The rates are still not tied to inflation. Yeah. And all the business, all the organizations were told the government, this is what, the most minimum what needs to be done. And the rates definitely have to be raised. But they said the most minimum what needed to be done was tie the rates to inflation. Okay, look at Ontario, for instance. They have more people on their disability program than what BC does, and they and they tied it to inflation. Their rates keep going up. So I know it's not a lot, folks, out in Ontario. I mean, I'm not trying to sell it short. But
at least they do that.
They do that, and a lot of it's not coming out of your support portion, right? So, but in BC, they haven't even done that, and our cost of living is so high. So, we have to keep juggling it, and And again, like trying to make that decision of where do you move to? Well, I could say, well, I'd love to move to, wherever. I haven't really decided that exactly which community, but
They
I
want us
can't
to
make,
move to a cardboard box, Brent.
yeah, but I mean, I can't make that decision of where to move to because I don't know if the government's actually, they haven't raised the
Yeah.
support in 4 years. They haven't
Yeah.
raised shelter in 2 years
Yeah.
since 2023. Because like I said earlier, the shelter rate finally went from the $375 to $500 in 2023 from 2007.
Yeah.
So 16 years. So 15 years and then 16 years.
Yeah.
It finally went up.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
you know
how
what, Brent? We are at the end of the show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a final comment at the risk that you're not gonna extend the show by another half an hour. But I just wanted to make the passing comment. The last comment is
everybody.
is that the provincial government here in BC, they were banking on the fact that everybody now is going to get the Canada Disability benefit here.
Yeah.
And like I'm basically assuming now that I'm not going to get it because I just told you everybody the other day that I put the call and then like, well, we didn't get your application, and like I filled it out and they've lost it, and so now I assume that I'm not going to get it. I know you don't get it. I've heard I've heard more people aren't getting it.
Yeah, me too.
I've heard that that's the norm, is that most people are not getting it. When the Canada Disability Benefit was first rolled out, it was
5 years ago.
It was almost like the promise that like at least 95% of people with disabilities are going to qualify for it, like minimum.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's like maybe 5 to 10% of people with disabilities are going to get it. At the most.
At the very most. And the BC government ran with that in their platform about the Canada Disability Benefit, and that's why they didn't want to raise the rates.
So now I'm not going to get the CDB. I'm not getting a Canada Disability Benefits. I know you're not getting it. I know tons of people that aren't getting it. Yeah. And so now what is the province going to say? Well, I don't know. Like we were told you were going to get this amount. You know?
And then of course my question would be to the government. Okay, so why didn't you have a plan B? So the Canada Disability Benefit, and not everybody was going to qualify for it. You assumed that the federal government was going to do it. I always never assume things because you know what, you break down the syllable of assume. It says don't make an ass out of you and me, right?
Yeah.
And basically they ran with that narrative of believing that the federal government was going to do the right thing. That's like saying, federal government, we need more transfer payments for healthcare, or federal government, we need money for transportation. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're broke, but we can go and buy a whole bunch of fighter jets, and we can go and offload money on over to China to go and build BC ferries, or whatever the topic.
Well, that's next podcast, right? That's on Friday.
That's what I mean. I'm just good little sneak peek for people on that one.
So tune in for that one, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact is, there's always excuses for the government not to do it. Mm-hmm. I had a meeting with the minister, MSDPR, Sonia and I, and Jeff Leggett. We all had a meeting, and I've talked to the minister in our rally when we had our rally just before they broke for they rose for the summer. They're still in their constituencies. They're still working in their constituencies. So I really encourage people in whatever riding that you are in British Columbia to contact your local representatives. Let them know how you feel about PWD rates. Tell them that you demand that they do better, that they carry your voices forward into the legislature and actually advocate and actually stand up for people with disabilities. Don't be scared that you can't stand up to represent people with disabilities in your riding, ministers, like all ministers, okay? Don't be scared. Right?
Even if you're in a wheelchair, stand up to them.
So, and speak how you feel. Like say, I believe that the rates need to be increased. Not once have I heard in the legislature during question period, not once have I ever heard a current government standing up and saying, yeah, I actually really strongly believe that yes, we do immediately have to raise our rates. You know why they don't do that? Because the party whip tells them, no, you cannot talk about that. You cannot say that.
Yeah.
And I agree to a point. To a point. Okay, I mean, I'll give any government credit to a point where if they become too vocal, but there needs to be, going forward, there needs to be a base standard in place.
Yeah.
Like the rates cannot be below disability.
You can't be, I mean, we always talk about pink unicorns, but
yeah.
I mean, a $500 per month shelter allowance, that is pink unicorn territory.
Yeah.
And I know the government loves pink unicorns.
They do.
But I mean, I'm sorry.
They're pets in their legislature. It's they love them, and but they're not real people.
No.
Unicorns aren't real, but the government,
and to be able to find a place to rent for $500 is not real either. That's a bunch of
bullshit. And I randomly phoned up a place one day while we were living here. I just phoned up. I said, hi, can I help you? I said, I heard that you've got rents available coming up, and yes, are you interested? Well, first of all, I want to let you know what my income is. I just want to make sure I don't want to waste my time and your time. Okay, so I get $500 maximum from the BC government as a person with disabilities. I said medically assessed and designated, no fault of my own. I was born with a disability. No. I get it. I mean, you can't change who you are. I go, well, in some cases, some people would love you to change, love the person to change who they need to be because how the government says. Right. Well, okay, but do they live your life? And I said, no. Well, then you can't change it, even though they may want you to change it based on a narrative. Okay, so what's your income? $1,483.50. $1,483.50. That's including the shelter. That's $375. I go, no, it's $500. Oh, they actually did raise it. Oh, the manager goes, oh, I wasn't sure. I was actually away on vacation. I had a fill-in manager that's been handling the building, but say what? $500? Is that all? What? And I guess that's kind of where I'm going with on the podcast today before we end the show is the manager said, you do know that the shelter rate was at $375 since 2007. So are you kidding me that the current government, it took that long, all the way from 2007 all the way to 2023 to finally raise it by $125? I go, yeah, but only to some. What do you mean only to some? Well, because if you had to prove that your rent actually went up, if you're renting in a basement suite, folks, and your manager who owns the home said, you know what, I'm going to give you a break because the cost of living is going high. I get it. I'm not going to increase your rent. That shelter allowance would not have qualified for that $125. If your rent had gone up by one penny, $1, you would then qualify for that $125 increase. If you're in RGI housing, you did not get that $125. The cost of living has gone up. So imagine people who in say even RGI housing, or you're in a basement suite and your manager said, no, I'm not increasing your rent. You would have got no increase, and your last increase in total on your check would have been in 2021. So 4 years ago. So you would have gone in equivalent 4 years with no increase plus no 125 increase in 2023. So all the way through, that's how bad it is, and the rates are not tied to inflation. So that's definitely an embarrassing thing for the government. And this came from a manager, and even my corporate manager is disgusted. Managers around the city are beyond disgusted with the BC government. Okay, like they can allow a shelter rate to be at $500. He said, a dog house, you can rent a dog kennel, you can rent a washroom. I mean, one of those toilet potties you could probably rent for $500.
And the MLA's shelter allowance per month now is $2,500.
So an equivalent, that's it's disgusting.
So even though the MLAs, like pink unicorns, their shelter allowance is based on reality, because that $2,500 is a real world dollar figure, because it really is $2,500 a month to rent anywhere.
Yeah, minimum.
So in that sense, they're being realistic and real, but yet they throw pink unicorns at us and say, well, for you guys, we'll just keep throwing pink unicorns and you'll find $500 place to rent somewhere. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And you can move up north. North, but you have no medical care or grocery shopping or transportation. But you know what? That's the best we can do.
I wonder if Christy Clark still has her access to her jet.
I wonder.
Do you think she still has access to her private jet? Maybe she'd be like Wonder Woman with that invisible jet. You know, maybe it turns invisible and she's just riding around in her invisible jet. You know.
Yeah, but don't worry, everybody. You know, we raised the rates 5 times since we formed government. Five times, Minister, 5 times was not enough. Yeah. You can't go a bunch of years and then skip it.
Well, plus I don't even think she was counting correctly, right?
No, she wasn't.
If you count correctly, it's more like 3, not 5.
So just to quickly recap. So in 2017, the BC NDP formed in collaboration with the BC Green Party as a confidence and supply agreement back in 2017. The first thing that John Horgan did, the Premier of British Columbia, when he became Premier, as he got sworn in, and he had a real hassle trying to basically make that happen, because Christy Clark at the time tried to convince the Lieutenant Governor that she was best to be suited to continue on the role. The Lieutenant Governor didn't want no part of it and said, you know what, John Horgan, yes, I want you to. She tried to say that you can have access to my jet if you let me have power. I'll give you access to my jet. Yeah, and poor John. John Horgan. He's standing at the podium. A bunch of us were sitting waiting for him, and we're watching him on live TV. And we're all sitting at a local pub, and all the meals, everything there. And we were watching live TV, and John's there. And one of them came running in there, and they said, "Yeah." He came. One of the MLAs came in. He goes, "Oh." I go, "Wow, you got a marathon runner?" He goes, "Yeah, John's still there." Oh, he's still live on TV. Yeah, I was right there. And they're like, "Yeah," and he was trying to wait for the Lieutenant Governor. And she had come and she had finally gave that official announcement to him, and he had found out. He goes, so I was just told that I'm now going to be the Premier of British Columbia, and so he made his way and he goes, sir, I got comments, and so he walked away. They were still talking to him. He walked away from the reporters. Oh, wow. As they were live on TV, he says, I gotta go. I'm hungry, and so we were sitting there while waiting, and he spotted Sonia first. Sonia, remember that, Sonia? Yeah. And he came up and he gave Sonia a big hug. He gave Sonia a super big hug, and he came by and shook my hand. He goes, pats me on the shoulder. Good to see you there, buddy. Good to see you there, Brent. Yeah. And he saw an order of fries sitting there, the famous order of fries sitting there. And Sonia passed the plate to him and said, John, you look like you haven't eaten in the whole day. I haven't, literally. My tummy's rumbling. I am so hungry. I've just been go. And I go, John, you need to stop and focus to eat. Like, you got to eat along the way. Yeah. And so he saw the fries, and we figured he's going to take a couple fries or maybe a little handful. Nope. What did he do, Sonia? Sonia? What did John Horgan do? He ate them. Yeah, but what did he do? He took not just the fries. He took the whole plate. Hear that, everybody? He took the whole plate. John took the whole plate. We gave him a handful. Or what did he want? He took the whole plate. We're like, oh no. Yeah. He was hungry. Yeah. Yeah. So long story short that's how it started. John committed to $100 increase. Yeah. And then, of course, in 2018, as we know, that the bus pass wasn't fully restored back to its original state of $45 a year bus pass. What they did is you had a choice, and you still have a choice, is that how they left it at, is that you can opt in, have $52, or go without a bus pass, take 52 or have a bus pass, So go with one or the other. So in 2018, they did not give an increase officially because they said that we increased it for the bus pass. So they have that decision that they can make. It's like enticing somebody, you can have or you can't have. Make that choice.
Yeah.
So so in 2019 though, $50 increase in the BC budget.
Right.
Wow. In 2020, in 2020, as we know, COVID. So $300 came into play. So in 2020 until 2021, then all of a sudden 125 dropped off. So you get to keep that 175. So they said that's an increase. 175. Oh, the 125 2 years later, there you go in 2023. That's the increases, everyone. So add those up. Tell me, is that 5 times?
Yeah.
That's not 5 times.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. And, as everybody knows, across Canada, the cost of living has skyrocketed. People are having to crowdfund. They're having to do mutual aid requests. They're having to ask their family for help. They're having to ask their neighbors for help.
If you have family.
If you have family. If you don't have family, you are SOL. Or the government says, oh, well, you can go and ask us for a crisis supplement of $50. Well,
but you have to beg for it, Brent. You have to
beg for it. You got to sit on hold on the phone for an hour, and then the government's going to say, why do you need $50? Why are you not budgeting better? Why are you not living within your means? But we'll give you $50. Well, here, why not just increase your rates? Why not just increase the rates to a livable amount so that people don't have to ask for help? They will have a roof over their head. They will keep themselves housed. If they need medical help or medical support, for whatever the reason is, get them the help that they need. Get the help centers going. I probably know where I'm going on that topic, but the fact is that the help needs to be there. And all I hear is crickets, like talk, there's more to do. Yeah, we recognize it. Put those words into action. Let's make British Columbia and every single province and territory in Canada a better place to call home. Because if we keep doing the status quo and we keep governments, and this is a message for government, if we keep doing the same thing and you expect a different result, it's not going to happen, right? I wasn't born yesterday. My mom was so livid when I told her of different things that I can't get 30% of my income to rent. Why? Well, because I have shelter. What do you mean? Well, yeah, you pay your rent. Well, no, I get shelter, but I don't qualify to what you get because, my mom had got the savers, right? I told you on that program, but I didn't qualify because I get shelter. She says it's dividing. That's called dividing disabled against disabled.
Divide and conquer. Yeah.
And what's changed going 30 years later, folks? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in.
We got to get to the chopper, Brent. Get to the chopper.
Oh no, we got to get to the chopper. We got to fix the disability rates.
Get to the chopper now.
$500 is not enough to fuel the plane. Minister, we need to do better immediately now. We need to raise the rates. So I guess the question I have before we end the podcast today to the government, what am I going to tell my corporate landlord next year? Do I give my notice in well in advance? So do I move? Or can I keep living here knowing that, is there going to be a rent increase? Is there going to be an increase on my support? I need to be proactive and make decisions for myself so that I can plan where I need to live.
Yeah.
So I need to know in advance, because I asked this question in 2024 to the Premier of British Columbia, and he didn't answer the question on live radio. He just says, well, Brent, we've raised the earnings exemptions. So if you're not well aware, if you get a job, then in other words, but that's not the question. My question was that my corporate landlord said, why didn't you raise the shelter rates? And I got a complete spin-off of something completely different, not even answering my question. So that was then. In 2025, they didn't raise the rates again. So the question was again to them, am I going to say the same thing to my corporate landlord next year and say, and a year after that, keep going, and then the rent's not tied to inflation? Eventually what happens is that your rent keeps going up and up and up, not tied to inflation, and you're not raising the rates. So I guess you become homeless and then you qualify for RGI housing. I'm sorry, Mr. Premier and the Minister, all due respect, we were homeless before. I don't want to be homeless again. I try to be proactive and make that so that it doesn't happen. You know how embarrassing that would be? You go to a corporate landlord, are you homeless? Yeah, because the government didn't provide enough money for me to have the basic needs in life.
Yeah.
So here's the choice: either raise the rates or implement a basic income in. Tom Pogson will talk to you more about the basic income stuff and the reasons why, and many other advocates who support basic income.
In the meantime, we'll be back. We'll be back on Friday. On Friday, we'll be back.
We'll be back. Only in a rerun, folks. No.
And we're going to pump you up, right? What's that one?
We're gonna
pump you up.
We're gonna bomb you up. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I hope you have a great day. Please subscribe to the podcast and the channel. It really helps us grow the channel. If you'd like to be a supporter of the channel, definitely click on the like button.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor, Brent. It's not a tumor.
Oh, wow. Yeah, right on.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Okay, bye.